Welcome to Festo's Tech Talk, our yearly online press conference before the Hannover Messe. First of all, thank you very much for joining us, and also a very warm welcome here to the two Festo experts who are joining me in the studio. It's Mr. Dr. Frank Melzer, member of the Management Board Product and Technology. Hello.
Hello.
Very warm welcome. As well as Mr. Marcus Stemler, Product Manager Digital Pneumatics. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this year's motto of the Hannover Messe is industrial transformation. And I think this is a really great fitting term for these times, because recently, because of the coronavirus, a lot has changed. So first time in history, the Hannover Messe is taking part as a virtual event. And also here at Festo, we will have a virtual trade fair this year at the 15th as well as 16th of July. And you are very welcome for joining us. Find out what you can expect there right here at Festo's Tech Talk. And ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about the corona crisis, even at Festo, a lot has changed recently. So I would suggest we start with a little view behind the scenes at Festo before we jump into the single topics. So, Mr. Dr. Melzer, let me ask you, how did you experience the last few months?
Well, I think, like everybody, we experienced a big change in our professional and private life through the corona lockdown. Within a day, we were sending nearly the complete organization in virtual home office. We installed about 6,000 VPN nodes within one day. It was an amazing step forward, and it worked. People were highly motivated. We could join the creativity sessions online. It was a big step. In the production, on the other hand, we are depending on delivering to system-relevant parts of the industry, like food industry, pharmaceutical, life tech. So we kept up the production all the time under very stringent sanitary conditions. We managed that. On top of that, we were able to provide our expertise to a couple of projects. One project was building face masks in a container which you can move to different ports, and we supported on pneumatic and electrical expertise. Also, we built a respirator. An emergency respirator. Within 4 sprints, within 4 weeks, we had a respirator ready to be produced in mass production. At that time, fortunately, it was not necessary anymore. But we still have that prototype and the parts developed for that, or not, the parts were not specifically developed, but they were industrial parts for other industries which we qualified for a medical application. And that helped in turn customers from us who were building their respirators, and we can support them with enough parts on that. So you've seen there were a lot of activities at Festo during that time, which showed also that our creativity was not stopped with Corona. Instead, we went to virtual spaces, and it was powerful as ever. And if some of the journalists are interested, there's much more on the portal to read about what Corona and how Corona affected us.
Thank you for these interesting insights, Mr. Melzer. So I would now like to introduce to you the 2 other participants of the Tech Talk. And please don't wonder, because in order to keep the distance regulations here in the studio, they will follow one after the other. So for the first time, we welcome a member of the management board from the Festo Didactic. It's Mr. Dr. Hansjorg Stotz. And he says we have to bring digital competence to a broad audience, because digital competence is the main lever when it comes to implementing Industry 4.0. Furthermore, later on, we will welcome here in the studio Mrs. Caroline von Hefen, Head of Bionic Projects. She will show us the actual and sure exciting projects, and as often, she and her team got inspiration from the world of animals. And a 4th guest, he's actually in the studio here with me, it's Mr. Marcus Stemler. So we introduced you before. Can you tell us what will you show us later on?
Yeah, of course. Well, I will present how Festo is able to make the customers' factories more energy efficient with the help of digitization in concerns of products and of services.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we actually received a lot of journalist questions here, and the next 30 hours, 30 minutes, I would say, we dedicate or are dedicated to all your topics to give you the right answers there. And let me ask you, Mr. Melzer, in your position as the chairman of the Platform Industry 4.0, which is the most renowned committee of its kind in Germany, where is the journey heading?
Well, the journey is clearly heading, as we experience in everyday's life, to more digitalization. We get more software and we get more a data-driven economy. But let me go one step back. What's the Platform Industry 4.0? It's actually a public-private partnership initiated by the federal government of Germany and combines governmental activities with about more than 150 companies and 600 participants voluntarily in different groups working on concepts, examples for Industry 4.0, and thus serving for all companies in Germany, Europe-wide, worldwide to develop that concept further. And Industry 4.0 is now the framework or the word for the next step in industry. And this is like the digital made in Germany. We're very proud of that, to push that limit further and further. We developed the framework last year, and in this framework we have three main pillars. One is sovereignty. And one example is the Gaia X project, where German government was driving, but industry was very much supporting a digital platform where data is sovereign. It means everyone can precisely describe where's the data, what security level, what happens with the data. That opens up new possibility in vertical digitalization. The next step is interoperability. Difficult words. And this is difficult word, but easy thing. How can things work together across industries? And we have a very fragmented industry in Europe, so it's very important that the systems can talk to each other. And different concepts are around, and the most interesting one, derived, very practical one, is the digital plate, where you have all the information of a product in a digital form and don't have any printed information. Like for that product, we have still a lot of printed information which we deliver, which then will scrapped afterwards. And we as Festo, for example, could save about 150 tons of paper a year if you fully go for a digital plate. And last but not least, it's sustainability, resource efficiency. How can digitalization help on resource efficiency?
And what kind of ways can we imagine that?
Well, one is here. That's a valve terminal, but it's a very intelligent one, Festo Motion Terminal, where we have controllers, sensors, and can control the pneumatics in a very different way. That means we can demand controlled airflow, and that's a much more efficient way. It's energy efficient and a much better controlled theory for moving things.
Thank you. So let's have a look at this nice little machine here. So, Mr. Stemler, how does this small valve terminal helps your customers to produce more energy efficiently?
Well, there are several different ways how we help the customers with this product to save energy. The first I want to mention is that we are able, Mr. Melzer, you said that already, that we are able to reduce the energy consumption because we can control in a demand-responsive way. So usually, when we talk about the pressure level in compressed air systems, we have a pressure level of 6 bar. Combining 6 bar with a certain size of a cylinder means that we can lift a certain force. In that case, I can show you that in that example that I can lift this weight with 6 bar, and the standard way would be to transport it down with 6 bar again. I have the possibility with a motion terminal that I easily can reduce the pressure to 3 bar. In that case, 3 bar are enough to lift that load and to transport it down again. I will just shortly present that even 3 bar are enough to lift the load and to bring it down again. We can go one step further. I lifted it again with 3 bar. We now can take advantage of the gravitation energy and lower the pressure to a certain minimum. Let's say 1 bar, for example. I can reduce the pressure to 1 bar. and retract the cylinder movement and move down. So with this, I am very easily able to reduce energy. The first step, lowering it to 3 bar, was approximately a saving potential of 50%. With moving down of approximately 1 bar, I save up to 60% and more of energy. So this is quite a large number, but it's interesting. We are able to reduce the pressure in standard operations as well. So with a standard operation, a manual adjustment also leads to the same result, so that we are able to reduce the energy level. But then you need a personal adjustment. People need to adjust the pressure. In that case, this is time consuming, and as it is not economical at the end, no one is doing this. With a motion terminal, we are digitizing this. So we make it very, very easy for the customers to lower the pressure, and the barrier for saving energy is much lower than compared to standard technology.
So you see, actually, sorry,
please.
Just want to add to that, because you see, digitalization helps. We don't need AI for doing that. Digitalization helps to energy safe design our products and the applications for that. And that's the key thing. What we need for that, like also in the IoT gateway, we need a controller, we need sensor, and we need data interface. And on top of the data interface, we can bring the data also up to a cloud or on the premises and dashboards and the customers.
So thank you for this great demonstration here. Do you have a concrete example for us for these savings?
Of course, we have one. We solved the solution in the tire industry, talking about the loading situation of a curing press. We have 2 pneumatic cylinders over there. And with exactly that effect that I was showing, that I lower the movement or transport the mass down with 1 bar, this led to a saving potential of 60% of the energy. It's not only energy saving we can address with digital pneumatics, we also can shorten the process time. So this is what opens different doors in the digitization of pneumatics. Well, when we talk about energy saving products and in combination with dashboards as well, it's not only the Festo Motion Terminal that has to be mentioned, it's the C2m Module as well. So the C2m Module is a very intelligent device that is usually installed at the front end of a machine. We have sensors for pressure and for flow integrated in this module, and we are able to interpret the data to derive information and derive actions, actually. So with this, we detect the still stand, the idle mode of a machine, and this module is deciding to then start at energy saving mode. We can detect leakages as well, and then the customer is able to derive idle states where he can repair. So we are delivering a leakage rate information with colors like red, yellow, and green. And based on that, the customer can decide when the machine stops and when the machine starts again. So with this, he increases the whole productivity of his factory. And of course, he saves energy by lowering the leakage rate.
What do you have in mind, Mr. Melzer, if you're listening to him?
When you have in mind that this is very important, I mean, this gives a big push in energy saving, and this is the term of these days. I mean, we calculated that just a device easily can save up to 100 euros just for one device from one example machine. If you scale it to a factory, that's massive. And this is what we see currently as a pull in the industry. For example, automotive industry wants to know, or other industries wants to know what's their CO2 footprint. And what are the energy costs? So here, the digitalization helps us, and it also helps us with data transparency. We can get the data out of that, and we can use this in examples like C2m cases, where we control the airflow and can shut down the airflow if the machine is not working anymore, and it starts up again. Like a soft start or like a standby button in a TV. Things very well known in typical industries, but fairly new for pneumatics, and brings pneumatics to the next level, to digital pneumatics.
So good point you're doing there, and especially on the subject of AI as well as energy efficiency, we received a lot of questions from journalists. So let me pick out one of them. Is AI, Mr. Melzer, is AI already being used in the area of energy efficiency and production? What do you think?
We are clearly on the way. I mean, it's very obvious. I told you that we bring the data up to the cloud or to the dashboard, and then we can bring in AI. Then we can bring in AI optimizing energy streams, finding abnormalities. The other example is just here, right there. I mean, Marcus Stemler clearly showed how he changed the pressure and still the device is working. I mean, an AI system can learn that and can learn what was a constrained learning by given times or different applications. What's the optimum pressure level for moving up or down, even time dependent. So this will be then an optimized movement plus minimizing energy usage. So we see clearly this is the road where we're going.
So Mr. Stemler, if I have it right in mind, in your opening statement, you also hinted in the direction some kind of energy efficiency consulting.
That's true.
That sounds interesting.
Exactly.
We'd like to know more about it.
Well, we have our energy saving service. So this is the service's name in our portfolio since approximately 15 years. The guys from that saving service, they visit yearly approximately 450 large factory buildings, where they analyze the whole compressed air system, not only the products where we are in, but it's the whole compressed air system. So they focus on weak points inside the factory for compressed air generation, compressed air treatment, and the usage in the machines. This is one aspect of the energy saving services. The other one is application engineering. So many use cases in machine builders are about the question which kind of technology is the most efficient one. And it's actually not the case of a technology question which is the most efficient energy that has to be used for an application. It's an application question. So there are applications where electric cylinders are more efficient than pneumatic cylinders, and others where pneumatics are more efficient. For example, when you want to clamp something or when you want to hold a certain load, pneumatics are more efficient in that. And because this is a very difficult question, our saving service guys, they support the customers in consulting a very technology-independent way. So they help the customer to find the best solution for their application.
And precisely this differentiates us in the market. Festo is the company delivering cross-technology possibilities. We have knowledge in mechanics, in pneumatics, and electric drives. So we can combine these things to the optimum solution. We don't have to drive electric drives because we just have them. If for many cases, for small movements, pneumatics are superior, we offer that. This is the advantage for Festo in the market. In talking about electrical automation, let me mention one thing which is, I think, very interesting, and we also show in the virtual fair. This is the Simplified Motion series, as we call it, where, let's say, pneumatics meets the electric world, where we have small drives in a very simple form, easy to install, easy to commission, but with the full functionality of an electric drive, communication, I/O link, can get all the data out, but a simple drive combining nearly the best of two worlds. And it's an interesting approach and strengthens our position for a cross-technology offering towards the customer. And all of that can be seen in our virtual exposition.
So it's great to hear that you're saddle-proofed in all kinds of technologies. And it's great to hear also, and it's kind of an invitation really to join this virtual exhibition because you're showcasing a lot of things there.
Precisely. The best solution always depends on the application, and this particularly applies to energy efficiency. We will show this quite strikingly at our virtual fair, where we have a simulated pressing process. Once we have a pneumatic, the other one an electric, or a servo pneumatic. And depending on the application, the one or the other is superior. And it's very difficult precisely predict beforehand without knowing the application. It's impossible. But with the application, we can predict what's the right way. The other example is the Festo Balancer, and we see that in a video right now, where we lift the device, and the Festo Balancer can lift a weight up to 1,000 kilograms or a ton. And when you want to hold the device in a position, then pneumatics is superior. Like in an automotive plant mounting wheels, you lift off the wheels, then you mount them, because no energy supply is necessary by holding. Versus electric can be superior when it just moving quickly from point A to B or fast from point A to B, their electric solutions is much superior on energy saving. So it depends on the application, and the system design is crucial. System design always starts with knowledge, and knowledge always starts with people. And this is also something we have deep in our DNA. We have the aspects of education and energy efficiency deep in our DNA. And today we call that corporate social responsibility. And this is a long-rooted thing for Festo. And the technical education and training is since 1965 deeply involved or deeply embedded in the Festo group. And I'm very, very glad in the meantime that Hansjorg Stotz, the board member from Festo TechTalk, joined us, and he will give us a little bit more insight into education these days.
Thank you. I mean, education is, I think, essential for technology to become innovation. So we're seeing right now, especially around the topic of Industry 4.0, significant demand globally on trainings for Industry 4.0. So base technologies, robotics, additive manufacturing, all those themes, cybersecurity, become hot everywhere over the globe, but people are looking for how can we train our people to get there. Digitization as such is not a one-time event. So what we're seeing is fast changes in technology, but also in business models out there. And in that sense, I think learning becomes more and more essential because it's becoming the real lifelong learning that people can use to adapt to technology and take it into innovation. So for us at Festo TechTalk, it means we need to provide people with the foundation technologies. So we have, as Mr. Melzer said, come from pneumatics, hydraulics, electrical engineering topics, but we're moving clearly into foundation technologies like artificial intelligence as well. But you also need to apply technology in bigger context, in applications, as you said. And applications for us are, for example, cyber-physical factories. Cyber-physical factories, we have an offering where we provide colleges, vocational schools, companies with a model factory where you can basically train and experiment with all those technologies without disrupting your production lines. So topics like commissioning, things like how do you integrate new technologies, all those aspects are basically being realized in that CP factory. Also, the topic that was discussed earlier around energy efficiency is one of the modules that we provide with an energy box that is very similar and actually founded on the technology of Festo, C2m, that we do to basically connect the machine to through an IoT gateway to the cloud and measure kind of the consumption of power, for example. So that's how we basically take kind of real technology from Festo into a learning situation.
And to complete the circle, welcome Mrs. von Heven. Hello. Great to have you here. And you often have the topic of energy efficiency also on your screen on your Bionic Learning Network. So what about this year?
Yeah, that's right. Energy efficiency is a topic that we have very often in our projects. Just think about the Bionic kangaroo. With every jump, it stores energy from the landing phase and uses it for the next jump. Nature simply does not know any senseless waste. It's really efficient also when it comes to flying. So this year, we took inspiration from a small bird, a swallow or a swift. The Bionic Swift is a very lightweight construction with only 42 grams. By using 3D printing technologies, we can realize really optimized structures and thus have a high material efficiency. Less weight means less energy consumption. For an efficient flight, it is also very important to have a close look at the wing. So we got inspired from the natural plumage of birds with a unique aerodynamics. The artificial feathers are made from a very lightweight, strong and flexible foam and a carbon kill. They adapt optimally in flight. During the wing upstroke, they open, thus saves energy. During downstroke, they close for a very strong wing beat. The Bionic Swift are very agile and small, and they can even fly curves and loopings. You can hardly tell them apart from their natural role model, especially when they are flying in a group. For these complex and difficult flying maneuvers, we have developed a kind of an indoor GPS based on a radio basis. This is the real innovation of the Bionic Swift, the autonomous flight of an artificial bird. Safe and coordinated flying without a human pilot. We've never done this before. If the birds deviate from their given flight track, they intervene autonomously in the situation. They come back on track by themselves. This gives new impulses, for example, for intralogistics. The precise localization of goods or material flows can help to optimize processes or detect bottlenecks. The intelligent networking of a flying object and a GPS route can create a 3D navigation system for the factory of the future. You can also use an autonomous flight robot for material transportation. With their flying corridors, they can also improve the use of space in a factory.
Thank you very much for sharing this interesting picture.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Stotz, you also work with the fascination of bionics at Festo Didactics. So how do bionic products help you in education?
I mean, bionics is the perfect topic to really engage and inspire young children already for technology. What we're seeing right now is a bit critical because in the manufacturing space, there is more and more a lack of talent. Younger people are more interested in IT, media, and other topics, and we have fewer talent entering the space of manufacturing. So we need to start really, really early to engage students with technology, and the topic of STEM is typically something where people are trying to bring new topics in. And now, bionics is a combination of biology, mechanics, technology in general, but also IT, and that's a perfect starting point. So this is how we use the products of Mrs. Van Haven and take it into our portfolio and are creating kits. The first kit we created was Bionic for Education, where we had a bionic fish that could swim by himself, that you could optimize to swim faster, slower. And that first component that we had was brought out, I think, in 2018, and we sold it, the first edition, in the first year. So based on that, we thought that's a great success. Let's continue and expand the portfolio. And we, here it is, brought the bionic flower into the play, where we mimicked kind of things that we observed with flowers. Topics like sensitivity to light, or how do the leaves open and close, sensitivity to touch. And those things, I think, and I can actually touch it and then it should open, yes. That is the next version, how we can basically get folding structure, mechanical structures, motors, but also sensors, the controls for sensors, programming into schools. And we can start with elementary schools, but it goes up in projects for high school students. And it's a great theme, actually, to expand and start to inspire and engage students into the topic of technology.
Yeah, sure. And now we are actually talking about children, but what about adults, Mr. Stotz? Because what we have heard so far, so employees today hardly can't do without any knowledge about data and digitalization. So what do you offer there?
I mean, digitization has two facets. The one facet being digitization as a subject matter. I mean, today you can't really kind of work in technology if you do not understand IT architectures, cloud, big data, all those aspects. But on the other hand, digitization also has a significant impact on learning itself. So what we've all seen during Corona times is that the classical ways how we communicate and consume knowledge have changed. So that's the same in learning. In learning, I think digital components, digital media are becoming more and more prevalent. People want to learn on the go. Mobile learning is becoming relevant. People want to have a self-paced learning. And this is why we have basically taken digitization into learning, created a Festo learning experience, a learning portal where the learner gets basically the pieces he needs for self-paced, individualized learning. The teacher can take that course as is, but he can also modify and adjust to the needs of the students. Going forward, we will more and more see artificial intelligence as part of this, so that AI is starting to basically find out what is actually the perfect next step in the learning path of the learner. So those aspects, I think, are really relevant. This is how digitization is going to shape learning in the future.
#lifelong learning, Mrs. von Hefen. As far as I have heard, you and your team also learned a lot during the last year. So I'm looking, for example, at this soft hand we presented also last year. It's equipped with AI, and I heard it developed during the last month. And as well, I heard the soft hand is no longer alone. Is it right?
Yeah, that is right. So as you remember, we introduced last year the Bionic soft hand by Dr. Knubben, and we have developed this further this year. So, for example, we added some artificial bone structures and also added a wrist. So we could achieve a more precise interaction of the fingers, and also could improve the action radius of the hand.
By the way, interaction, may I touch it?
Yes, sure.
Okay, it's really quite flexible and agile, yeah?
Yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive how it
Yeah, do you feel the bones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
So the fingers can also adapt themselves, the grasping power, to the object, like humans. Also, the hand wears a glove with tactile matrix sensors on the fingertips and the inside of the hand and the outside of the robot hand. At the wrist, there is a depth camera for visual object recognition. Therefore, a neural network was trained with data augmentation. But the Bionic mobile assistant also consists of an electric arm and a mobile robot. The robot balances on a ball and was developed in close cooperation with the ETH in Zurich. This system dynamically stabilizes itself by constantly moving autonomously. The whole energy supply is on board and it moves autonomously. The industrial change requires a new interaction, a new way of interaction of human beings, machines, and data. Workers and robots will more and more work together closely. Festo is working intensively on developing safe systems that can relieve people from monotonous and dangerous activities.
So what pops up in your mind, Mr. Stotz, if you're listening to this?
I mean, the topic of human-machine interaction, humans working with robots, with cobots in this case, is becoming actually very realistic right now. I mean, in our own plants, we have situations where we analyzed work processes, figured out that actually it's too much work for one person, it's actually not enough work for two, so we start to think about implementing a cobot. But cobots typically create some concern because, I mean, we know robots as being enveloped in those big cells where they're basically protected, or we're protected. So in this case, I think we had that situation. We had to train the worker to actually engage with the robot. And what we did is we created a training environment where you can basically commission and set up the robot, where you can start to engage with the robot, but also observe in what other situation could you use it. That training environment was used within our own plants to basically optimize the process and train people. And now we're taking it in the next step and take it into our learning solutions and take it out into the market. And that's a typical example how Festo SE and Festo TechTalk works together, how we take actually real world examples and basically take them into educational solutions.
Thank you very much for sharing your perspectives into the future. I think it's really fascinating to listen what is developing out there. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are now nearly reaching the end of our Festo TechTalk, and we really hope that we inspired you to join our corporate press conference as well as our Festo virtual exhibition. And by the way, corporate press conference, there the chairman of the board, Dr. Oliver Jung, as well as the member of the management board, Dr. Ansgar Krivit, will be waiting for you. So let's say, see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us and have a good time.